I'm Eric, this is Yeti Garage. Today I'm working on this 87 4Runner. It's one of my coworkers. I built this, last couple days I've been working on this bumper and some sliders for it. Put this receiver in there, he's got a winch and a cradle he wants to use for the front and the rear. Anyway, so I built the bumper and this little guard on the side, this little rock slider. So that's bump out to keep your tire out of the trees. Anyway, this video, I'm gonna build a rear bumper. And he sent me a picture, and I don't forget who the manufacturer is, but someone makes a bumper that covers this rear quarter. It goes in through the body, ties into the factory cage of this 4Runner, or the little roll bar, it's not really a cage. Anyway, so there's gonna be a tube up high, a couple tubes down low. Those get connected. Then they got to stop before this, so the tailgate can still open. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to tie them together here and still get the light in and out. And then the bottom is one single tube and a receiver, keep it up high so it doesn't get caught on anything. And then I've been talking about making some kind of mount in here to hold. This is on 37s. You want to be able to stand a 37-inch tire up on this driver's side, but man, it's only about 36.5 inches, and these pit bulls measure about 36.5 inches. So I'm gonna have to actually take one off, or maybe he'll bring me the spare and see if it'll even stand up in there before we go building the mount. Anyway, I'm gonna start with tearing this interior apart, get this carpet out of here so I can weld in here, and then I gotta get these panels off and then figure out where I wanna drill a hole in the panel, or in the quarter panel, so that I can fit a tube in to tie to that roll bar. Well, I guess that answers that question. It won't really fit. So the tailgate won't close all the way. Took the padding off that roll bar. It's up against the headliner. It won't stand up all the way because it's hitting the canopy up here. Has a little trim piece. It's hitting that. And yeah, this tire is 36.5 inches. So if you had a 36 or definitely a 35, you could stand up right there. But to get this tire, I sat up in here and kicked that, trying to get it to stand up the rest of the way. It's really close to fitting, but not quite. If you really wanted to do it, you have to modify this roll bar, I think. So you can either straighten it out a little bit, it has a kickback, or you could probably the easiest would be to put a little spacer underneath the bottom here. You've got almost an inch of clearance up at the top. If you went up with the roll bar or forward, move the roll bar forward, you could probably stand a 37 up in there. But I think we're just going to have to lay this one down. Alright, so I got all back to the bumper here. Got all the interior panels out of my way and the carpet out of the way, and I was looking where I'm going to go through. It's nice this little window opens here so I can measure without having to crawl in there. But I'm going to have to cut a hole. I want that tubing really close, and it's going to 90 in and weld into that roll bar. So where it goes through is not going to be straight out from that roll bar. It's going to go through as it's bending. So I'm going to have to figure that out. I think I'm going to bend up a piece of scrap tube and use that to measure. So yeah, I'll bend up a piece and then we'll do some measuring. Okay, I got this tube, and it's within a half a degree of 90. So this is the mark I used to line up with the lower die on that tube bender. And I know that this mark with that die ends up being, it's a 6-inch radius die, and it's, anyway, this mark is 6¼ inches from the center line of this tube. Like you measured across, you know, from that way, 6¼ inches. So it's not going to be real difficult to find the center line of this roll bar on the outside. I can just measure and put a mark out here where center line is. What I need to know is how far from that center line do I cut the hole. So I'm going to take this piece of tubing, and I chose 1 inch. I'm going to keep the tubing 1 inch off the body. So this straight edge I know is 1 inch wide. So if I line that up with the side wall of this tube, and then I jump to the other side of the straight edge and mark here and cut, then I'll know that that cut is in line with the side of that tube, and I know that this mark here is 6¼ from the center line. Mark the center line, line that mark up 6¼ back, and then trace this tube on the side of the Forerunner and cut that hole out. First thing I did was I have this piece of aluminum tubing, which is really straight, and I stuck it all the way through these windows, and then I measured from this side of the tubing, the aluminum tube, to the side of this roll bar tube, and it was 7/8 of an inch in there. I checked both sides to make sure that this tube was square to the roll bar. Then I transferred, I just used a level, transferred the side of this tube. That's this line on the tape, and that's 7/8 of an inch. So this is that line represents the side of that roll bar. The roll bar is 2-inch tubing, so there's another inch. So this line represents the center line of the factory roll bar. And I measured back 6¼ made a mark, and then I decided a center line for elevation. It's here. And then when you take that piece of tube I made and line up that mark at the 6¼ mark, and then trace it, and that should be, if I cut this hole, tubing should go through and land on the center of the roll bar, and that shows how far off it was. So if this is the center of the factory roll bar, if I had just cut a hole there, I wouldn't even have been, you know, it looks like it would have been off 1¼ or something, plus the fact that it's oblong and not a round hole. So now I gotta decide how I'm gonna cut that and not tear it all up. Okay, I went with the hole saw and the aviation snips. I didn't have the camera on to show, but I did use a hammer and dolly and cleaned it up after the aviation snips, because the aviation snips make it all wavy. So I straightened it back out and then sanded it smooth. I cut on the inside of the line with the aviation snip, so I had a little bit of material to remove. And then, as you can see, and it's pretty close. There's a little, not really a gap right there. So I think what I'm gonna end up doing is using body seam sealer on the inside, and then I think I could just paint the outside, and no water will get in because the seam sealer, but on the outside it'll look real clean, and just paint it right over. All right, so next there's this bracket right there. It's in my way where the tube wants to be, so I got to get in here and cut those brackets out on both sides. And there was a ground for the rear wiring harness hooked to each bracket, one on each side, so I'm going to figure that out. Might leave half the bracket in there so you have something to hook the ground to, but that's next. Alright, I just cut the top half of that bracket over and off, and then bent the rest of it over, so I still have a place to hook that ground back up. And then I talked to the owner of the 4Runner, and I think I'm going to make a new, well, I am going to make a new roll bar. So this one, it has that about a 45 there at the top, and it angles back. That's what's getting in the way of that tire, is that top tube. So if I just make this, the main tube of this roll bar, straight and just goes up, I think it'll make enough room for the tailgate to close, and then I'll just build a new support tube also. I think I'll just reuse these foot pads. So I'm gonna pull this roll bar out and cut these pads off and clean them up, and then do some measuring and bend a new main hoop. I'm gonna do that next before I start building any more of the bumper. Main hoop of the new roll bar in, and I'm pretty happy with how it came out. I hit the angle pretty good, so it follows along the, let me see if you can see that, same angle as the top. Ended up being about 25 degrees. And then I made it really tight. I ended up having to cut 1/8 of an inch off because it was just up against the top, and I figured on a gravel road it was probably just going to squeak and drive you crazy. So I cut a little off the end here, and I put the foot pads off the original roll bar. I just cut them off and put them on this one. It does have a little bit of a spring to it, about 1/4 of an inch. I got that ratchet strap on there to get it bolted up. The good news is I threw the tire back in. I got it rolled up, and now first thing it hits is the back seat. So it's touching the back seat, and all kinds of room. So that worked out really good. Now I just got to figure out a way to secure it in there. I think he also now he wants to figure out a way to secure the winch on the little receiver hitch thing. So I think he's gonna stop by tomorrow, and we're gonna come up with a plan for all that so he can fit all of his stuff back here. But now we're on to the fun part, this top tube. So cut me a little piece, and I'm gonna bend this 90 and get that notch on it, and then probably just hold it up here with like some magnets and measure and bend this 90, cut it off, and it'll be a start to the bumper. So make a bend real quick. All right, I got a bunch of parts bent up and cut, and thinking about ready to start tacking stuff. So here's the upper tube, and I think I am gonna 45 these ends to the tailgate clears. I got the lower piece sitting here. I'm gonna use this 1.5 inches. I put a little break in it here to go between the two. Like that. I tried to use my one of those Harbor Freight, I don't even know where I set that thing, hole saw, tube notcher things. I just never have luck with it, so I went back to the old paper patterns, but instead of laying it out myself, I found a, does this say where it is? Yeah. Does it say blocklayer.com? They have a thing on their webpage, you just put all the information in, the size of the tube and the both tubes, and the degree, the wall thickness, and it prints out the pattern and cut it out for the notches. So that's what I've been doing lately, and yeah, it works. Works really good. So I think I'm going to set up the time lapse and tack this whole side together and make sure it's what I want so far before I go on building the very bottom tube that actually goes to the hitch. Okay, I got that piece all welded up. Now I'm on to making the lowest tube. It'll go underneath the back and have a receiver hitch in it. And I went ahead and did the other side at the same time, so I don't have to play catch up later. So yeah, I just bent the lowest tube, and then I'm gonna 45 the end, and put some, just like these, just some pieces that come from this tube down to that one, and then build it in half so it's removable and I can paint it, and then slide it in through the penetration right there, and then make the welds on the inside, but paint it when it's off, other than right where I'm going to weld, so that I don't have to tape the whole forerunner off to paint it. Alright, so yep, onto, I gotta cut some of this 1.5 inches for the little pieces right there, notch the ends. Okay, so I got those pieces cut and this lower tube welded on. It's in there pretty tight. It's not hanging out or anything. I think it'll be good. And this back tube here in the middle, I put this tape and some marks. That's where the hitch is going to be. So got the other side. The other side's tacked up right now, that lower tube piece, and I'm about ready to make those welds. And then I think the worst part of this whole project is putting these end caps on, a bunch of grinding to get them all round, and yeah, sand them down, try to make them look decent. There's 4 of them on each side, so at least I'm over halfway. I got those 4 done. This is number 5 I'm working on right here. All right, so back at it. Okay, I got the bumpers over in front of the forerunner painted, waiting for those to dry, and bent up this tube and tacked on the factory little foot pad for the roll bar. And then this piece coming off is what I'm going to use to mount the spare tire. So this goes in here. You can see it there. It's too dark probably, but like that. And that piece of tube will stick out through the middle of the rim. And I use some 1/4 inch plate. Cut some circles out. These circles, a little piece of tube and an old part of an old pipe stand. I'll also make a little, well, you'll see a little washer, and basically a washer and nut that holds that spare tire in place. It doesn't need much because it's pretty wedged against the headliner and the bottom, but give it a little something. All right, so I'm gonna weld all this stuff up and I'll put it in there, and then I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. Okay, everything's got a coat of paint on it, and then I'll have to sand off the paint where I'm going to weld, but at least this way everything is painted that it'll be up against the body where I won't be able to get paint really well once it's put together, and I'll have to touch it up after I'm done. So now I laid out this piece of tube. I'm going to bend up a little offset piece that hooks to the back of this receiver tube and ties that receiver to the frame rails, and then there'll be some tabs off the bottom of the frame rail in this area here, and off the other side of that tab I'm going to put a piece that ties into that body armor thing, so it has a little bit more support. And then I'm probably going to do some more pieces of tubing that come off that lowest bumper tube to the frame. Okay, I think this might be the last bend, this little piece, so I'll bend this up real quick. Okay, I had to take the top off. I don't have anyone to help me, so I just spun it 90 degrees so I could get in here and make this weld. I didn't really feel like trying to get a mirror and everything when it was just, I think, 12 bolts to undo the top. So I got this weld on my other side and painted everything while the top's out of the way. And then the two, well, you see it over there, the two welds where the bumper tube comes through the body. I've got the bumper all installed and painted up. I'll pull it outside tomorrow so we can get some better light on it. Paint's still drying. Yeah, the light's not very good in here. I'll pull it outside tomorrow. Okay, got it outside. It's overcast today and trying to snow, so I don't know if that really helped the light situation, but give it a little walk around here. So here's the rear bumper, and I supported it. Like you can see right here, here's one of the supports off the frame, and then it's got that hitch tying it in also. Let me see if you can, yeah, there it is. It's welded to the frame on each side. And then it supported to the new roll bar in here. The roll bar is just bolted in like it was from the factory. It uses the same foot pads as the factory. This little spare tire carrier. This is just I don't know if I said that before. This is the nut and the thread off an old pipe stand. There's the the rock sliders I built. Right now they're just a little stitch weld to the frame. He wanted to bolt them. He said he'd do that himself. So, and then here's the front bumper I built. Came out pretty good, especially for what it is, just a wheeler. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you like the video, appreciate it if you click the like button. If you like this kind of fabrication content, subscribe, and you can follow me on Instagram at Yeti Garage. Alright, thanks for watching.